Our Across the Aisle segment tonight, it was less than an hour after this morning's shooting when Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe just had to insert his liberal ideology into the tragedy. McAuliffe called for more background checks and ending gun show loopholes. This is not what today is about, he said, but there are too many guns in the streets. We lose 93 million Americans a day to gun violence. Watch him.
Well, let me say this. I think we need to do more to protect all of our citizens. I have long advocated this is not what today is about, but there are too many guns on the street. Background check, shutting down gun show loopholes. That's not for today's discussion, but it's not just about politicians. We worry about this every day for all of our citizens.
With me now, Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, thanks for being here.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm good. It could be under better circumstances that we were having this conversation. I hate, actually, that we have to talk about this topic on the same day that the tragedy occurred. I wish that people, Republicans and Democrats, would just sit back, sit tight, hold on to their political agendas for just a bit so that we can all come together in unity and support for Congressman Steve Scalise and the others who were injured in this attack. And I guess, Joel, why is Governor McAuliffe politicizing this? That was an hour after we heard about it.
Yeah, and I think it would be only appropriate for me to start off by just saying that sending my thoughts and prayers out to Congressman Scalise and all those impacted today, and wishing them a speedy recovery, and really, really hoping that this does unify us. Just in terms of Governor McAuliffe, I would disagree with you. I don't think he was politicizing it. I think what he was doing was trying to add some perspective. Some folks wouldn't want to discuss that on a day like today. I can certainly understand that. But I think what the governor was trying to alert us to is the fact that these things are happening every day. It hit us here in Washington, D.C. in a very personal way today, but it's happening in communities all over the country every day. And it's happened 3 or 4 other times today in the news cycle. If you look in San Francisco and Brooklyn, there have been other occurrences. So I think that's what the governor was attempting to do.
Right. I mean, like it or not, he was politicizing it. He talked about 2 political policies that he wanted to push, the background checks and the gun show loopholes. That is politics. You can't argue away from that. I understand, in a sense, wanting to do what you can politically to prevent this from happening again. It is politicizing it, but I guess it brings up the topic of guns and gun control, which, again, I wish we could wait at least until tomorrow to have that conversation. But, Joel, I would just ask you, I guess, as a Democrat yourself, you've talked about gun control with me before. I mean, what stopped the shooter in this case?
Well, I think what stopped the shooter was the bravery of Capitol police officers and also local police officers there in Alexandria. Look, you're right.
Right,
and
police officers
I don't have much of an appetite with guns.
Right.
Liz, I don't have much of an appetite to fight here on gun control today. I will say, I think that there are a lot of Americans, I think there's a good chunk of the country that believes that you can respect the Second Amendment and also believe that we need common sense controls on the guns that we have in our society.
Right. No, and I don't think using rhetoric like that, nobody's going to disagree with it. But I guess I would just ask you, and we can move on to rhetoric in just a moment here. When you use the word common sense, I mean, do you truly consider it common sense that members of Congress, who clearly are targeted because they're members of Congress, they're targeted because of their political views, that there are places on Capitol Hill where they aren't allowed to conceal carry a firearm to protect themselves against these types of issues?
Yeah, I think that there's plenty of protection for Congress people. I think you have a lot of skilled, trained professionals who understand law enforcement, understand how to take care of folks, on the Capitol. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think you need more guns on Capitol Hill. I think, honestly, what we need is a broader understanding of what it means to say gun control. Yeah.
Right. How long did it take the Alexandria Police Department to show up after this 911 call?
It sounds like it took about 3 minutes.
Right, 3 minutes.
But yeah.
3 minutes. So
yeah,
what can happen in 3 minutes? That's 180 seconds. What can happen in that amount of time if the whip of the House majority, a leadership position with his own security detail, didn't happen to be there? What would happen in that amount of time?
But so, Liz, I want to pose a challenge to you. You're talking about politicizing what happened today. And while I trust that your intent is not to do that, I worry that this conversation gets to that point. I mean, I look at the vitriol and hatred just on the comment threads on some of my appearances on your show when I go on YouTube and I look at them, and they disturb me. And I'm disturbed by what I saw, by what this madman wrote on his social media accounts. we've got to work on understanding how to have a conversation without allowing it to devolve into you're my enemy. I'm angry at you.
Right.
We've got to do a better job of that across the aisle, Democrats and Republicans.
I completely agree with you. That's one of the reasons I value your and my conversations every week, because I feel like we actually sit down and just intellectually debate, push back and forth the pros and cons of the different political issues, and that's what we're doing now. I'm not blaming this on Bernie. I'm not blaming this on violent rhetoric. Bernie, by the way, this guy I guess supported. It's not his fault. Certainly not. It's the deranged lunatic's fault. I'm not going to ever blame it on that. But I think we need to answer the question, and this is something Republicans and Democrats don't do very well. We need to answer the question, what is the solution to making sure that Americans' Second Amendment rights aren't infringed, that everyone who needs protection is able to protect themselves, while at the same time preventing as best we can deranged people from getting their hands on firearms? That's the debate that Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill aren't able to have. They just default immediately to both of their talking points.
So can't we say that this person who has a history of violence, who shown himself to be an unstable person, why was he allowed to legally purchase a gun in this country, which it appears that is what he did? Why is anyone who exhibits that kind of behavior allowed to do that? Why are terrorists, people who we don't even allow to fly on airplanes, why are they able to purchase guns and own guns?
Well, that's a great question.
Think about why is the NRA fight? Why is that the hill that the NRA is choosing to die on?
No, that's a great question. And I guess my question would be, I would ask for evidence that increasing restrictions on gun purchases would actually keep firearms out of the hands of criminals or terrorists. Because criminals and terrorists, as you know, don't care about the law. They're willing to break the law. They're willing to hurt other people, violate their rights. Why would they care if there were increased laws that, just made them have to use another way to get the firearm? Is there evidence that would actually keep the guns out of their hands?
Well, I certainly think that there's no harm in attempting to do more. I think that I don't believe it's incongruent to say, we value and appreciate the Second Amendment. We understand the right to bear arms. We understand how important that is to so many people in this country. And we also believe that folks who have guns should be safe and should follow regulations, that there are certain weapons that shouldn't be on the street, that there are certain types of ammunition that shouldn't be on the street. Those are things that we shouldn't disagree about.
No, and I don't think we do. I think we just disagree on the medium. Like I said, I'm open. Please show me the evidence. Show me the evidence that increased laws would actually keep firearms out of the hands of criminals and still enable legally law-abiding citizens to bear arms and protect themselves.
2 months after?
If there's evidence that is the case.
2 months after Sandy? Why 2 months after Sandy Hook could Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey not get 60 votes in the Senate to pass universal background checks? What does that do to infringe upon the rights of anybody with a gun who is supposed to have a gun?
I think the question is, would that actually prevent criminals from getting their hands on guns? And that's the part that we don't have any evidence of. Joel,